Another lifetime ago, Bo Burnham released My Whole Family, a song that arguably should never have gained any popularity, and also arguably could only have ever been created by a sheltered 15-year-old white kid from the Massachusetts suburbs. Despite this, My Whole Family would make its creator, Bo Burnham, one of YouTube's very first viral video creators. Now at the same time, I was only 11 years old. I had unlimited access to what was considered high-speed internet, and I was watching South Park and Adult Swim way too much for someone who hadn't even yet smoked their first cigarette. Arguably, this has had less than desirable effects. Fortunately for me, I was able to make it through middle school, but not before Bo would release Bo for Show, the most influential album I had ever fucking heard in my life up to that point. I swear, my MP3 player at the time had only the Invader Zim episodes I could find sifting through porn on LimeWire, and Bo for Show, which was also from LimeWire. Arguably, this has also had less than desirable effects. After that, Bo would go on to release his first real stand-up special, Words, Words, Words. I remember seeing Words, Words, Words as hardly a freshman in high school, and to my freshly grown pubic hair and malleable brain, this was infinitely better than his previous productions. I would say to me at the time it was reaching even genius levels. I mean, it's funny, there's a touch of introspection here and there, and I ate up every second of it. Especially as a young man who was about to smoke his first cigarette. What I learned then about being all meta and self-aware of your desire for attention is that, well, it gets everybody in on the joke with you, right? I mean, you are the joke, I guess, in that situation, but, I mean, if you're the joke, that kind of makes coming off as a douche okay, right? Now, Bo's stage presence has always carried an air of arrogance throughout his works. Something he readily admits to, but to me, as a kid who did magic and kind of felt like the kind of kid Bo was talking about in his songs, this arrogance always came off as assuredness to me. He seemed so confident of himself on the stage. He was only 19 at the time. I was a shitheaded 15-year-old who had finally smoked his first cigarette, and for some reason, I too decided I needed to aim for the stage. Was that entirely Bo's fault? No, mostly I would blame my dad's pull-out game for that, but yeah, I guess Bo still had some influence there. Words, Words, Words was Bo's first work that wasn't just re-recordings of his YouTube videos. This special is notable because it marks some of Bo's first attempts, intentionally or otherwise, to distance himself from being a YouTube personality, which honestly was probably wise considering what was popular at the time on YouTube was 2 girls 1 cup reaction videos.
What the hell? Get out of here, jockey! Oh!
Bo's departure from YouTube creator to full-blown single-man theater begins with his next special, What? Right from the beginning, we know Bo's doing something totally different in this special. The introduction alone shows a full frontal cynicism we only get a glimpse at in his previous works. Now luckily for me at this time in my life, I finally learned about nihilism, and I had smoked enough cigarettes by then to be certified cynical. I mean, like, listen to Radiohead while smoking weed cynical. So, it was a pretty tight time in my life, honestly. Now, I'm a few years graduated from high school at this point. My friends had gone off to college, and I just moved in with my girlfriend, now fiance. And the harsh realities of the world started coming for me in a really serious way. I mean, I was only 19 at the time, but I was still managing to find a way to be drunk and or stoned while smoking a shitload of cigarettes at all times. Now, I did hold down a job, and it was one that I actually really liked, although that job would go on to break my young and naive heart after I realized that that corporation did not care about me, how I paid my rent, or how I bought my cigarettes. But then Bo released Make Happy. I wish that I could tell you that I saw Make Happy and instantly understood what Bo was trying to tell me, but alas, I was mostly drunk and stoned. So all I got out of at the time were some laughs, but, it made me think, was my time listening to Bo over? Was I too mature to take in anything that the dude who wrote Clan Cookout had to say? Make Happy is thematically and tonally a major fucking bummer. But in its messaging, I think Bo hints to at least believing in better times being possible. Like in the song Kill Yourself, where he talks about life's problems having complex answers that do not come easy, but can come to you and will come to you if you go looking for them, even if Bo can't reach them for himself from where he is right now.
Anyway, my point so far is that as a creator from the internet, Bo's actually been with me for some time. His influence has carried over into my very own performances. And in fact, it's one of the reasons that I ever even got up on a stage in the first place myself. And I've had the pleasure and privilege of being in front of those audiences and on the stages as often and as frequently and for as long as I've wanted to throughout the years. That is until...
Tonight, a crucial test in China's biggest cities that have been in virtual lockdown to keep the coronavirus from spreading.
Yep, the same fucking thing that every fucking fuck that calls themselves a performer had to face this last year. The end of performing. Going at it live for an audience was killed dead. Or was it? I mean, I'm pretty sure Bo Burnham just released what the aliens who discover humanity's remains underneath a mile of shit, piss, and dirt will consider the greatest piece of performance art ever churned out of our pathetic human minds, and he didn't even need a fucking audience to make it. I mean, it's on Netflix, so it does have an audience, but, whatever, fuck you know what I mean.
So, fuck it. If Bo's allowed to write jokes about segues being hard to write, then so am I. Although, I guess this is less a joke and more just a statement. But, whatever. Fuck. I truly think that Bo has been building up to this moment his entire career. I mean, that seems kind of cruel to say, especially when in the special itself he talks about how for the last 5 years he's been working on his mental health. Only to feel comfortable enough to return in January of 2020, right before the world shat its collective britches over the COVID-19 pandemic. But if you think that you could find anybody who could give a better or more measured response to the death of performance than Bo Burnham, then to that I say I will beat that person to death with my bare fucking hands just to win this fucking argument.
Bo Burnham does a truly great job of bravely answering the questions I know everyone watching was desperately needing answers for, like, what does the pandemic mean for people who need to be in front of other people to survive? And, oh god, what about the entertainers? In Magic, for example, people switched to doing these virtual shows in the past year, which is where a magician performs in front of a camera, an audience watches the stream, and neither group wears any pants. Now, to be clear here, I would never talk shit on somebody else's grind, and I know that I would do whatever I needed to put food in my daughter's mouth. But know that a virtual show is the last goddamn thing I would do to feed her. And I know that not every magician has to view magic the way that I do, and there are more guys way more successful than me who don't give a flying fuck about the way that things appear, or what that appearance might imply, but performing for virtual audiences sounds about as unfulfilling and soulless as I could possibly imagine magic getting. I know what you're thinking right now. It's, what the fuck are you even talking about? Which is a fair thought to have, because I'm pretty sure most of this is just going to come off as the ramblings of an out-of-work magician who's been watching way too much Bo Burnham in the last few weeks, but I promise at the very least, you'll walk away from this video with my useless perspective. So, you've got that to look forward to. Honestly, you want to know what sucks the most about Inside, now that I'm thinking about it? Since it got released the way that it did, there was no press tour for it, which means Bo Burnham didn't even have to go on Hot Ones, and that's a fucking massive bummer. I would have loved personally to see that dude eat wings way too spicy for him, cause you know he'd be shitting. Am I right?
Anyway, Bo's special through the eyes of a true spotlight slut like myself was super interesting, actually. See, I live with family and not very far away from friends, so even during the COVID-19 lockdown, even during the worst of it, I was not very far away from an audience. I mean, it wasn't a professional audience, but most of the work that I do actually isn't. I mean, I've done plenty of work for birthday parties, graduation parties, bars, restaurants. I've even worked on stages, but I've never really pursued it as a legitimate career option. And Bo Burnham's actually answered the why not of that for me. See, Bo has shown us an inside what it's like when a performer has no audience. More specifically, when he loses his audience.
So why then do I think that this is a logical step for Bo? Well, he spent the first 3 specials discussing the lies and inauthenticness of the entertainment industry, lamenting needing to stay performing for an audience he feels desperate to entertain, only to be smacked with COVID-19, resulting in a special lamenting the lack of the live performance space he took for granted. Simultaneously, it's not like Bo has been secretive about the dichotomy of his relationship to the stage. So what I'm saying is not a secret, but I do think that that makes it logical, at least given the circumstances. This is also the only time I can ever remember Bo referencing his own future potential irrelevance and regret over his past body of work.
Which is something that every performer will have to go through eventually. For growth, unfortunately, it's something that just must be done. And you're basically always facing the threat of irrelevancy. But that's why rising to become cream of the crop over and over again is such an impossibly difficult task. But Burnham, though, is talented enough to achieve that, though. It's just unfortunate for him that he's been uploading his evidence of work and ideas to the internet for the last 14 years in a very public fashion, so we've seen just how far he's had to come since the beginning, and we've certainly seen no waning in public interest for his work.
Bo is so unbelievably talented and has found such a unique performance style that I don't think, or maybe I just really hope, that he will never have to face irrelevancy, especially as a person who has shown how much he's willing to grow as an individual and as a professional. We love seeing that legitimate fear in our celebrities' eyes, though, don't we? It reminds us that they're perfectly aware that without our attention, they are nothing.
Or, a little more optimistically, because we are tired of being manipulated by our corporate overlords. Bo's been trying to tell us for over 10 years that entertainers and media outlets are lying directly to our faces in order to manipulate us out of our hard-earned money. And all Bo's role as entertainer is to facilitate that transfer of money from consumer to record labels, tour sponsors, etc., etc. And that seems to eat him up a bit. Inside.
Seeing this exploitation and saying nothing about it would make you complicit. But what does seeing the exploitation, saying something about it, and then continue to be a part of it make you? Should anyone even care what your opinion on that matter is?
Whatever conclusion you come to, I hope that you forgive yourself someday, Bo. You've given at least one other person the gift of a crippling addiction to attention, and I'll take that to my grave with me. I hope, and I hope that you do too. But I hope for the both of us that that's not for, let's say, another 20, 25 years. That sounds pretty good.